What up, y'all? Hi. Happy Saturday. I am drinking some coffee, and today's musings on TEDx Application. So, I've given myself permission to not think too hard about it this morning. So I am just kind of letting it mull over. I've put a lot out there this week, and I am now just slowly marinating on the suggestions and the comments and the feedback so far that I've been given. And major shout out to my cousin Maria, because thinking about the 5 words, she said something that I just think is brilliant. She said, skinned knees learn to ride. Skinned knees learn to ride. Loved that. I loved that. And I don't think that's quite it. I don't think. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I love that idea of and there's this thing in Japanese culture called the Darumi doll. And the Darumi doll is the idea of get knocked down 7 times, get back up 8. It's this really fun little thing that you knock it down and it pops right back up, right? Like you knock it down and it pops right back up. And that's the idea that I'm going for with this particular TED Talk, that when we embrace failure, when we embrace the idea of failing, are willing to try and willing to put ourselves out there, that we will fall down and get back up, fall down and get back up, because that's how, we all learn to walk by failing. Think about that for a second. You don't just put one foot in front of the other and start to walk. You've got to crawl. You've got to get up and fall down. You've got to get up and bounce and bounce and bounce, and learn how to hold yourself on a body. And we don't tell kids to stop falling when they're learning to walk. We encourage it, and that's what I'm trying to do with the idea of failure, is of celebrating failure, is encourage the falling down, because the falling down is what creates the resiliency that gets us to where we want to go. That's what I'm working on. I was also talking to my boyfriend about it this morning, and he said that what it reminded him of is, I guess, if you have a electric airplane, or I don't know that they'd be gas, but a little electric airplane. When you're learning to fly those little airplanes, it's like a little course correction. They call it you don't just joystick it around. It moves one way and you just tap, and it slowly goes one direction. And if it starts going the other direction, you tap to get it to go back in the direction. So it's course corrections. Failures help us course correct towards the right thing. Failures are resiliency. Failures are fun. So I'm mulling. I was also thinking about how failure is constructive criticism. It becomes resiliency when we allow it to be constructive criticism that we take. And it's that idea of, I think I mentioned this yesterday, fail, iterate, fail, iterate, fail, iterate, right? Fail, iterate, try, fail, iterate, try. Just keep going. So that's what's on my mind this morning. But like I said, I'm just letting it marinate this weekend. So, if I have new thoughts tomorrow, I'll pop back on and share them with you. But as of right now, that's mainly what's on my mind as far as this goes. You know what? That's not true. There's a little bit more on my mind. Karen also suggested yesterday that it's the tension as far as creating like a sexy 5 words is really important. And I loved that feedback. She was talking about that's why like the audacity of hope is so poignant, that like that statement, the audacity of hope, right? It's poignant because there's tension between audacity and hope. And I was just thinking about things that create tension. Like, I'm not sure, but I'm going to keep mulling on that one because it was good. I thought I wrote down more, but I like the ideas of scars being beautiful. And I think that's along the lines of, what I'm getting at here with failing and being able to learn from our failures and move forward, because it is really, it's really that being able to fail and keep moving and have the scars. I mean, I've got like scar here from when I was really little, all of our scars tell a story, and we learned something. I learned not to walk into fences. I learned not to run. Maybe I had 2 scars from running into things. So maybe it took me a little bit of time, but I did end up learning there. But the scar, I've got a scar here on my collarbone that is from failing on my bike. I definitely learned that way. When I mountain bike, I'll sit back on the seat instead of forward on the seat. And, that's what I'm talking about here. The failure, I hit my head really hard. Maybe that's why I'm not such a good wordsmith, because I hit my head so hard. But those scars they teach us lessons. Bertrude, who was on the podcast, I'm blanking on her last name right now, but she is the one that taught herself how to ride the unicycle. She said, scars are proof that we were stronger than what came at us. And that is what I'm getting at with the failure topic of like being able to fail and embrace the scar, embrace the lesson so that we can come back stronger and do something else. But when we stop failing, we stop learning, or we stay out of action, and that's no fun. So that's what's on my mind this morning. It's not very poignant, but I just wanted to share where I was at and what I'm thinking about, and just letting all of this marinate, trying not to push too hard with it today. And kind of like not think about it. Like I'm going to try not to let myself think about it too much. So yeah, that's what's on my mind. Thank you all for joining. If any thoughts come to you that you want to share, people's input so far has been so helpful. I mean, I can't even tell you. Plus it feels really encouraging. So I'm just grateful for anybody that's listening, anybody that's watching, and anyone that's paying attention to this journey of the TEDx application, because it can be lonely to try to do stuff like this on your own, and trying to bring all of you into the mix makes it feel like a fun group project where I don't necessarily have to wait on other people to do things, but that I get to have that collaboration aspect, which a lot of my work doesn't have a collaboration aspect. So this is really fun to bring all of you in. So thanks for paying attention. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for listening. But I'm going as far as trying to find a sexy 5 words. I love what Maria said about skinned knees learn to ride. I think my 5 words are along those types of lines. What do you think? Does that spark anything in you? Is there anything else that that comes to mind? 5 words with failure. I mean, I was just, somebody was asking like, what's the point of what I'm doing? Like, what's the thesis? And the thesis of what I'm doing is that don't let fear of failure keep you out of action, because failure is the road to success. And so many people have said they don't like the word failure. They wish I wasn't using the word fail, but to me, that's the point. It's that when we embrace failing, we can go so much further, so much farther than those that are not willing to embrace it, because we realize that it's the resiliency, the falling down and getting back up and moving forward, that's going to take all of our projects, all of our hopes, all of our aspirations to where they need to go. You know, I've got friends who have, like my friend Jess, she wrote a whole book and trashed it, like delete. I don't know if she would categorize that as a failure, but she didn't let that stop her from writing more books, and now she's a published author, and she puts out lots of books a year, right? And so that's really beautiful and exciting to see, but she didn't let a book, like the idea that she put one, you know, trashed one book, literally hit delete on it. That, I mean, you could call that, I don't know if she'd call that a failure or not. And I think about, like, with me, with the knitting, I had a whole little talk that I gave once about how I was knitting something. I was knitting a vest. I was knitting it in 2 panels, and I got halfway up the back panel and had made really good progress, and I had taken it with me to India and was going to knit on the plane ride home. And in India, they don't let you take knitting needles on the plane, and they made me pull out my stitches. Think about that. Pull out the stitches. I mean, I already invested probably 10 hours of work or more into that back vest. And I was so angry. I let it keep me out of action. I was so frustrated and so angry that it took me a year before I picked up that damn sweater again. And then when I finally picked it back up, I got all the way up to where I was, and then a little bit further, and I made a mistake, and I had to rip the whole thing out again. But I decided I wasn't going to let that stop me. I wasn't going to sit on it for another year. I was going to start back immediately. I started back up, got that back panel done, started up the front panel, got more than halfway up the front panel, and then made a mistake on that front panel and had to rip that out. Decided to keep going. And you know, that happened on when I was adding the sleeves. It happened, you know, making a mistake and having to start over, rip out, start over. It happened when I was doing the collar. I made a mistake, I had to start over. That's what I'm talking about with failure. Those mistakes were learning opportunities. And I believe in calling it failure, because when we call it failure, when we own it, we're able to absorb the lesson. A lot of people don't agree with me on this point. I'm sticking with it. I like it. Thanks for sticking with me. Happy Saturday. I'll talk to y'all soon.